All men with but one single thought, the overthrow of Nazism. Major General Russell Hartwell, commander of American forces in Northern Ireland, on the right, and Lieutenant General H.E. Franklin, commanding the British forces.
In early 1942, Northern Ireland became the entry point for America's ground war in Europe. The first official elements of the United States Army arrived in Belfast on the 26th of January 1942. Their deployment was part of Operation Magnet, the American military build-up in Ulster. This was not a symbolic visit. It was the beginning of a major wartime concentration of US forces in Northern Ireland. By the end of the war, around 300,000 American service personnel had been based in or passed through Northern Ireland. That figure alone explains why this story matters. Northern Ireland was close to the Atlantic convoy routes, close to British ports and airfields, and far enough from the main continental battlefield to serve as a training and staging area. For the Americans, it was a practical bridgehead. For local people, it meant that towns, roads, fields and camps across Ulster suddenly filled with unfamiliar accents, uniforms, vehicles and equipment. The American presence spread quickly. Soldiers trained in camps across Northern Ireland. Airmen used local airfields. Military convoys became a common sight. Temporary bases and support sites appeared across the province. In some places, the US presence was so large that it changed the rhythm of everyday life. This was not just about numbers, it was about preparation. American units in Northern Ireland trained for future operations overseas. Some would later move to North Africa. Others would continue preparing for the campaigns that followed in Europe. Northern Ireland was not the final destination. It was a vast military waiting room and training ground. That is what makes this story more important than many people realise. When people think about the American war in Europe, they usually picture Normandy, France or Germany. They do not picture Belfast docks, County Down camps or US troops drilling in Ulster mud. But Northern Ireland was one of the places where that war effort was assembled. The local impact was immense. At times, American personnel amounted to nearly a tenth of Northern Ireland's population. Their arrival brought money, pressure on infrastructure, cultural change, and constant military movement. For many local people, the war stopped being something heard about on the radio. It was suddenly outside the front door. Archive films from the period show exactly that world. American troops arriving at camp, training exercises, assault courses, leave in local towns, baseball games with children, convoys on the roads. These images do not show a side note to the war. They show a major military presence embedded in Northern Ireland. And that presence had a larger purpose. The United States did not send troops to Ulster by accident. Northern Ireland offered a secure base for men, material and planning at a critical stage of the war. From here, American forces could be organised, trained and moved onward into the wider European conflict. So the real question is not why there were Americans in Northern Ireland. The real question is why this part of the war has been so widely overlooked. Because between 1942 and 1945, Northern Ireland was not just watching the war, it was helping prepare America to fight it.